Why do they separate them if they always go back to each other? For years, those who follow Taehyung and Jungkook closely have noticed a pattern: repeated attempts to keep them apart. The company tries to separate them physically, trying to keep them from sitting together or interacting so much on camera. However, their attitude goes in another direction. Even though they are forced to be distant, they always find a way to show they want to be together. It's Jungkook who, despite the distance, never stops looking at Taehyung. His eyes search for him and remain fixed on him, as if that's his way of being close, even though he can't physically do so. For his part, Taehyung also observes Jungkook with that same energy. Taehyung's gaze is not indifferent, and on many occasions it's evident that he also wants to be by Jungkook's side. The most important thing is that this doesn't happen just once. It has happened so many times that it's no longer a coincidence. Each separation only seems to strengthen their need to prove they want to be together no matter what others say or do. What's interesting is how they act when they're under control or supervision. They don't cross boundaries that expose them, but they do leave clues that can't be ignored. Their gestures, the way they communicate without speaking, their long glances, and the small body movements all build a language of their own. When two people look at each other like that, they don't need words to say they're connected. It's been known for a long time that Taehyung has a very unique way of looking at Jungkook. That gaze doesn't change even as time passes or even when there are people around. Whenever the two are in the same place, Taehyung's eyes focus on him as if he's the only thing he wants to see. Even Namjoon notices this. What's important isn't just how Taehyung feels about Jungkook, but how those around him recognize it. Namjoon has been close to them from the beginning. That's why, if he acts naturally with gestures like these, it's because he knows they're part of a connection that's been growing for years. He doesn't hide it or avoid it, and that's a clear sign that what happens between Taehyung and Jungkook isn't temporary or contrived. Although they're often not next to each other, they always find a way to get closer again. Sometimes a glance is enough, other times a small gesture. When someone like Namjoon, who has shared so many years together, notices that connection and does nothing to stop it, it's because he's learned that it's part of who Taehyung and Jungkook are. The connection is visible, real, and present even when it's not expressed in words. It's in the long glances, the way they hold each other close, the shared silences. Namjoon doesn't need to say anything to show that he knows. His way of carrying himself, his silent support, and his calmness when he sees these gestures speak for themselves. And that attitude shows that there's something solid between Taehyung and Jungkook that no longer needs explaining. Because those who truly know them have not only seen those moments, but understand them as part of their history. From their first appearances, Taehyung and Jungkook don't need to speak to understand the deep connection between them. Every time they see each other on screen, their closeness is immediately evident. They don't make grand gestures, but their glances and movements speak volumes. Jungkook stays behind Taehyung, not as someone simply waiting, but as someone watching over him. That simple action reveals a bond where he prioritizes Taehyung no matter who's watching. Taehyung, for his part, reacts as if he already knows the steps Jungkook will take. He doesn't need to turn around to know he's there. When he blushes, it doesn't seem staged. It's a natural response to the attention he receives from someone who has been with him for a long time. Those details, like waiting, following, or reacting to a gesture, are more than simple habits, they are signs of a history lived together. The way they understand each other without words, even in public places, shows that they're used to paying attention to each other. It's a kind of attention that isn't built overnight. It's constant, as if they've been connected for years by something invisible but obvious. When one moves, the other follows. It's not a matter of casual coordination, it's a connection that works naturally, even in the midst of hustle and bustle. They don't mind if there are cameras. They behave the same way every time, as if the rest of the world disappears when they're together. They don't need others to understand what they have. They demonstrate it in actions so small that only the attentive observer can capture it. The second axis of the script focuses on how Taehyung and Jungkook convey their connection without using words, and that speaks volumes more than any official statement. It's long been observed that their relationship needs no explanation. They don't rely on sound bites, interviews, or clarifications. Their bodies speak for themselves. And they do so naturally. When they're together, gestures become automatic, a hand reaching out, a gaze held, a light touch that seems unplanned but occurs at key moments. This consistent body language builds a narrative stronger than any speech. People may assume it's a game, fan service, or a staged performance, but those who observe closely understand that there's nothing rehearsed about these reactions. It's impossible to fake such a spontaneous and repeated connection in so many different contexts. True emotions can't be programmed or switched off at will, and this is reflected in the way they move around each other. Taehyung and Jungkook don't show discomfort or emotional distance, quite the opposite. They approach each other with confidence. They look at each other without fear. They seek each other out even when they know they're being watched. What stands out most about the script is that it speaks to an emotional truth that can't fit into a pre-established script. Taekook doesn't behave as if they're following instructions, but as if they're setting the pace for their interactions. The affection they express is evident in every detail, from the way Taehyung tilts his head toward Jungkook when he speaks, to the way Jungkook smiles in a special way only when Taehyung is near. These gestures aren't repeated with anyone else. This gives the relationship a different value, one that doesn't need to be validated by third parties, because it's already being lived by them silently, through every interaction. The repetition of certain gestures. This isn't something you see once and then disappear. On the contrary, they are behaviors that appear continuously over time. When two people have the habit of doing the same thing every time they're together, it's because it's become part of their way of being. In the case of Taekook, these gestures don't change. They are repeated naturally. One of those gestures is physical contact. Taehyung and Jungkook touch each other without fear, without hesitation or hiding. They do it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. They also position themselves close to each other, always seeking to be in a shared space. There's no discomfort or distance. These acts aren't faked. They're real because they're born on their own. Often, when they're at events or surrounded by other people, they search for each other with their eyes. No matter how many people are there, one of them always ends up looking at the other. It's as if they only feel complete when they know the other is nearby. And that's something that can't be controlled or planned. It happens because they feel it that way. Another thing that stands out is that none of this has ever been seen as a mistake or something out of place. Even though there are cameras, an audience, and many rules to follow, they continue to act the same. They don't change their way of being around each other. They keep repeating these gestures. This consistency, over time, shows that their way of relating doesn't depend on a single moment. It's something that's always there. When actions don't seem forced, it's because there's sincerity behind them. If every time they see each other, they act with the same naturalness, it's because that's their way of being together. There are no signs of discomfort. On the contrary, their bodies react freely, as if they know what the other needs. That fluidity isn't achieved with words or promises. It's built through time, connection, and a bond that needs no explanation. From the first moment Jungkook approached Taehyung, there was a clear intention in his actions. He didn't just look at him, he cared for him, protected him, and without needing to express it in words, he made it clear that his attention toward Taehyung wasn't superficial. As time passed, these small actions began to form part of an invisible routine. It was easy to notice how Jungkook sought to be close, how he stood behind Taehyung at key moments, as if his place was defined by something deeper. Taehyung, for his part, didn't hide it. Although he sometimes tried to hide it, his face spoke for him. Every time Jungkook looked at him or followed him, his expression changed. You could see how those gestures affected him. They weren't simple reactions, they were signs of a feeling he couldn't contain. Over the years, these signs became more constant. They continued to appear, neither in the most public settings nor in the most controlled situations. The existing recordings of them together show a harmony that cannot be faked. When one acts, the other responds. When one touches, the other doesn't move away. It's as if their bodies know exactly what to do when they're around each other. This natural synchronicity has been constant over time, and each new appearance only confirms what has been seen for years. No change in environment has changed the way they relate to each other. They adapt together, move together, and react as if they were an extension of each other. The development of this relationship hasn't been static. It has grown visibly. What began as shy gestures has transformed into a constant display of unity. It's no longer about isolated moments, it's a pattern. And that pattern makes it clear that they cannot live apart. They don't say it with words, but they show it with every action, with every second shared. Even when they're surrounded by many people, their attention is focused on each other.